Hello et bienvenue à tous dans ce 95e numéro du Rétro. Merci à tous ceux qui soutiennent la chaîne et qui permettent de continuer la grande aventure des NBA Stories. Si vous souhaitez supporter ce projet, sachez qu'il est possible d'offrir un tip directement depuis YouTube en cliquant sur le cœur sous cette vidéo. Merci à tous. Saviez-vous que les NBA Stories sont aussi sur Instagram ? Je vous propose tous les jours des publications ultra soignées sur l'actualité et l'histoire de la NBA. Ce serait vraiment génial pour moi d'avoir plus de followers pour augmenter mon exposition. Le lien est dans la description et en commentaire. Je compte sur vous pour faire exploser le compteur d'abonnés. Nous avons aujourd'hui la chance de compter sur la participation de Yaron Weitzman. Correspondant NBA pour Fox Sports, Weitzman est également l'auteur de Tanking to the Top. Ce livre passionnant raconte les coulisses de la période process de Philadelphie. Merci à lui d'avoir accepté de participer à cet épisode.
A new chapter starts in Philadelphia. The Sixers just introduced Sam Hinkie as their general manager.
To try to keep our end goal in mind, which is to build a championship caliber team in Philly. That won't come overnight. That's not a surprise.
We're clearly building through the draft. We're clearly trying to find star players that we can really move forward with.
The process was controversial among Sixers fans. It very much broke down into new school and old school fans. So if you are in the older generation where you go to work every day and you grew up reading the tabloids and consuming things on talk radio, and you go to work and you want to come home and watch a team that doesn't suck on your TV and be entertained that night, the process was not fun, right? It was something that you were anti because they were awful. You didn't want to watch that. This younger generation, they're very online, very into salary cap, fake trades, draft scouting, all that stuff. To them, the process was like, oh, this is obvious. This is what we should be doing. Right? The whole point of the process was you need stars to win a championship. In order to get stars, the best way to do so is to tank and get the top draft picks.
Le process, ou, pour beaucoup de fans et d'observateurs, le mot que l'on ne doit pas prononcer. En NBA, tout est fait pour que les chances de gagner le titre soient équitablement réparties. C'est dans cette optique que les pires équipes se voient offrir les meilleurs choix de la draft, synonyme des jeunes joueurs les plus talentueux. Ce n'est un secret pour personne. Depuis le milieu des années 80, certaines franchises accumulent volontairement les défaites pour mettre la main sur les meilleurs jeunes. Mais jamais un homme n'avait poussé le bouchon aussi loin que Sam Hinkie. En 2012, les Philadelphia Sixers étaient totalement en fin de parcours. Les belles années Allen Iverson semblaient très loin. Il fallait tout reconstruire de fond en comble. C'est ainsi que le cérébral Sam Hinkie fit son entrée en scène. Le general manager embrassa la stratégie du tanking à un niveau jamais vu auparavant. Année après année, les Sixers proposèrent une parodie de basketball sur les cours. Pendant 4 saisons, jamais l'équipe ne fit mieux qu'une avant-dernière place. Hinkie n'en avait que faire, son plan fonctionnait à merveille. Les bons pics de draft tombaient comme des petits pains. Le résultat, des déceptions comme Nerlens Noel, Jahlil Okafor ou encore le pétard mouillé Michael Carter-Williams. Mais aussi des pièces bien plus prometteuses, comme Joel Embiid ou Ben Simmons. De façon presque mystique, il semblait toutefois que les dieux du basketball voulurent punir Hinkie pour son odieux stratagème. Embiid comme Simmons furent frappés par des blessures lors de leur arrivée en NBA. Le premier manqua ses 2 premières saisons, le second l'intégralité de son année rookie.
View it as a mugshot and treat him the disgust it deserves because of the way he has literally thrown seasons.
Nothing has really happened the way the plan was supposed to happen.
But do me a favor. Take that trust the process lingo and go to hell with it.
Process Sixers get labeled as one of these like all-time losing teams. Sam Hinkie was in charge for less than 3 seasons. It was basically 2 full seasons of tanking. I believe that they never finished with the worst record, which is always one of their arguments that, like, you know, teams, other teams are doing worse than us and they're not even doing this on purpose. So why is there so much uproar about what we are doing? You know, worry about the teams who don't even have a plan. But the way Sam Hinkie went about it, it just turned people off for reasons fair and unfair. He got labeled as sort of this, analytics guy, didn't care about humans, no connection to the media, didn't do press conferences, but just the league, the uproar became too strong. He made a few mistakes in terms of not understanding the pressure was building. Other owners were upset about how, when the Sixers came in, ticket sales would be bad. When you are turning it on, or when you're going to a game, you are seeing the best in the world trying to win. And if you are built to lose, you are sort of upsetting that whole paradigm, right? And that becomes the big problem. And just the league was really sensitive about it, did not like it.
En 2016, c'en était trop pour Sam Hinkie. Moins de 3 ans après son arrivée, le stratège rendit les armes à travers une lettre de plus de 7000 mots. Pour le remplacer, Brian Colangelo, ni plus ni moins que le fils du président de la franchise. Ancien rival de Sam Hinkie, Colangelo débarqua avec des fondations déjà solides. 2 jeunes promesses en Joel Embiid et Ben Simmons. Puis, 1 an plus tard, un nouveau premier choix de draft.
We have Joel Embiid and we have Ben Simmons, who's a bit of a funky player, but back then also he was electric, he was exciting, he was great. They get this additional top pick coming in, and it's like, oh, we are ready. This is going to be it. We are ready to move into the next phase. The rebuild is over. Let's get going here.
Né en 1998 d'une mère célibataire, Markelle Fultz tomba amoureux du basketball dès son plus jeune âge. Mais dans une région du Maryland riche en talent, Fultz était totalement anonyme lors de son arrivée au lycée. Son coach te racontait. Il était petit et dégingandé. Quand il courait, on aurait dit que ses genoux lui faisaient mal.
One of the things that's important to remember Markelle Fultz is he was not like a child star. I always compare him to Ben Simmons, right? Who grew up in the spotlight, going to be the #1 pick for a long time. Like kind of, at the age of like 15, everyone knew he was going to be an high NBA pick. Markelle Fultz played JV basketball as a sophomore.
C'est seulement en 2e année de lycée que Markelle Fultz commença à faire connaître son nom. Désormais haut d'1m91, il fit le buzz à travers une super performance face au lycée d'un certain Jason Tatum. L'ascension de Markelle Fultz fut alors aussi soudaine qu'inattendue. Il rejoint les Huskies de Washington en 2016 en explosant tout sur son passage. En l'espace de 2 ans, le meneur était passé de total inconnu à vedette nationale.
Fultz tucking like a running back. Wanted to see him do more of against Yale. Wide open, Markelle Fultz from the wing.
Markelle Fultz was a 6'4" explosive guard who shot for 40% from 3 in his final season in college.
11%, really cold here.
Fultz over Perry. Fultz thought about it. Spins, weaves, up and through. High by Matisse Thybulle. Chris DeMarco jams it home.
College was by far the best time of my life. I mean, just being able to go there, really not have to worry about paying bills and all that, but just having fun.
This free throw shooter Wilder to the line and he misses both. Fultz.
He's a ridiculous athlete. He's 6'4", he's got a 6'10" reach. He shoots 41% from the 3. He can change speeds, change directions.
Été 2017, la croisée des chemins à Philadelphie. À la suite d'un échange avec Boston, Brian Colangelo mit la main sur le premier choix de la draft, au lieu du 3e. Pour lui, comme pour la plupart des observateurs, le numéro 1 de cette cuvée était déjà bien défini.
He was the consensus #1 pick by everybody, basically, except Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics. And Danny Ainge liked Jason Tatum more as a prospect. Fultz did not have a good workout in Boston. He just did not perform well. He was uncomfortable, did not look good. And Brian Colangelo thought the Sixers thought Fultz would be a perfect guy to kind of complete the rebuild there.
Colangelo would unfairly get all the credit for all of Hinkie's good work. This is 100% Hinkie, 0% Colangelo. Colangelo deserves less than 0 credit for what's happening right now.
And Brian Colangelo, he had just a job because he was Jerry Colangelo's son. Sam Hinkie had a very loud, strong following who thought that he should still be there, and he was railroaded, and that it was ridiculous that Brian Colangelo came in. And Brian Colangelo was somebody who was hyper-aware, hypersensitive to public criticism and what was being said about him. And I think this is one of the important things to remember, because I think he thought that Markelle Fultz, that would be his guy. He would put his stamp, he would be trade up, get the #1 pick, get Markelle Fultz. It would be his stamp, and he'd be known as the guy who sort of completed the rebuild. Simmons is a funky player, right? The fit between Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid was always a little weird, right? You had then basically 2 non-shooters in the modern NBA. That's hard. And Ben Simmons was a ball handler. It's hard to fit in with other guys. And the Sixers thought Markelle Fultz would be a bridge, would be the perfect bridge of a player. between Embiid and Simmons.
With the first pick in the 2017 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Markelle Fultz from the University of Washington.
C'est bon, le peuple de Philadelphie pouvait mettre les années de galère au placard. Lui, Markelle Fultz, passé en quelques années seulement de l'ombre à la lumière. Un rêve comme l'Amérique aime tant nous en raconter. Malheureusement, il ne fallut qu'une poignée d'instants pour voir ce rêve tourner au cauchemar.
Rookie year was if you look it up, it was a disaster. Like you could see the clips of in the gym of him shooting. It just wasn't going well. Brett Brown talking about how Markelle had made changes to his form over the offseason. There's some videos, there's some viral tweets of it where you can see where like his shot is just kind of like this, and people are like, "What is that? That doesn't look normal. What happened?" And it was just wild. It was wild to see because the number one pick who seemed to have forgotten how to shoot, and nobody knew what was going on. The Sixers were being coy about it, mostly I think because they were pretty behind the scenes, even unsure why that had happened.
Did you modify your shot at all?
I mean, I did a whole bunch of things that, that I'm not going to talk about.
Embiid, Simmons, Fultz, le trio du futur. Philadelphie retrouva bien les playoffs en 2017, mais Markelle Fultz n'y était pour rien. Dès le début de saison, son pourcentage au tir chuta drastiquement. Sa mécanique était visuellement inquiétante. Connu comme étant un tireur d'élite, Fultz ne tenta même pas un panier à 3 points pendant 4 rencontres. C'en était trop pour les Sixers. Le meneur ne rejoua pas de presque toute la saison.
He's been terrible. And if he's been terrible because his shoulder hurts, then take care of his shoulder, which is, I think, what they're going to do right now.
There are people around him who think it was a mental issue. I think there was a physical too. I think it was kind of a mix of a bunch of things. In the span of basically 3 years, he went from a JV player to the number one pick in the NBA draft. That's fast. That's a lot of life changes in a really quick time, and it can be really hard on an individual and on an individual circle. And his circle was, things got messy.
There was a lot of things going on about changing shots and all this and that, but there was an injury there. Once I realized I really couldn't do stuff to my full capacity, I was like, it really is something, so I had to find out what it was. And we did that throughout the season. It took a long time, which people really didn't understand. They thought like, man, just being soft, but I mean, it was really an injury.
I seen him in college. It doesn't look like the same guy.
You look at full shoot in college.
It's different.
And I did today. It's a different shot.
The curse of being drafted by the 76ers is you go right to a hospital bed.
We're talking about his body fat?
Yeah.
When is he going to play? I've never heard of that injury before.
Syndrome du défilé thoraco-brachial. Voici le terme obscur pour décrire l'épaule blessée de Markelle Fultz. Pour d'autres, l'explication ne peut pas être que physique. Le joueur a-t-il totalement oublié comment tirer en quelques mois? Comment sa forme si pure a pu se disloquer en un seul été? La saison 2018-2019 est marquante dans l'histoire des Sixers. Philadelphie assemble un incroyable 5 de départ pour ne viser rien d'autre que les titres. La finalité, une cruelle élimination au buzzer par Kawhi Leonard. Markelle Fultz, lui, avait totalement disparu des radars. 2 saisons à Philadelphie, seulement 36 matchs joués, 7 points de moyenne, seulement 25% de réussite à 3 points. À quelques centaines de miles de là, Danny Ainge avait vu droit dans le mille. Jason Tatum devint indiscutablement l'un des meilleurs jeunes de la ligue. Seulement 2 saisons après son arrivée en NBA, le mot tant redouté des recrues foudroya Markelle Fultz. Et oui, le meneur avait tout d'un bust.
Do you remember when the Philadelphia 76ers picked Markelle Fultz number 1 in the draft?
Where?
Number 1 in the draft?
Right now, it appears to be the biggest bust in NBA history. I don't recall, even with Kwame Brown, Michael Olowokandi, and others, I don't recall a number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft being this bad.
This is the most bizarre thing we've ever seen from a number 1 overall pick in the draft.
I hate to be the one to say this, but, he's been a bust for them.
He couldn't shoot. So he was coming in for some, he'd be athletic off the bench, and the fans would cheer for him like he was like Rudy. It was just a weird situation, and he would go in and out. The team wasn't always informed of, he would miss time for his shoulder or whatever. He would say for his shoulder, and the team wasn't sure. And then Elton Brand, who took over from Ryan Colangelo, there was a press conference where you could see he just, after Markelle announced that he was taking time off for thoracic outlet syndrome, I believe what's called. That's in year 2. Elton Brand, the GM there, you could tell he just lost it. He just was frustrated and broken and didn't know, and knew just Markelle needed a change of scenery to thrive.
We're going to be talking about Markelle Fultz because he has just been traded to the Orlando Magic.
Philadelphia has finally decided the Markelle Fultz experiment is over for them.
I just looked at the opportunity in front of me and I thought, it was perfect for me and my family, to get a fresh start.
En 2020, l'heure du process était révolue. Philadelphie visait désormais le haut du tableau et n'avait plus le temps d'attendre. Après 2 saisons aussi mauvaises qu'absurdes, Markelle Fultz fut envoyé à Orlando contre des pièces sans réelle valeur. En Floride, le meneur retrouva certaines couleurs et démontra que son talent ne s'était pas totalement évaporé. Hélas, les pépins physiques et peut-être mentaux ne l'ont pas lâché. 7 ans après son arrivée, Markelle Fultz n'a jamais répondu aux attentes d'un premier choix de draft NBA. Du côté de Philadelphie, la question fait toujours débat chez les amateurs de basketball. Le process a-t-il été un succès?
It's indisputable that there were some major whiffs, right? Like you look at the top picks, Markelle Fultz, Nerlens Noel, Jahlil Okafor, and Simmons also now his career is derailed. So really we're talking about one guy, right? 1 for 5. I need 5 guys. I think 1. But they got the one guy, and that was the whole thing. And you could say it's unfair. You could say Sam Hinkie, it's a cop-out, but the whole reason for the tanking I mentioned earlier, get as many picks as you can because you need the star. And Sam Hinkie would always say, drafting is an inexact science. I want swings at the plate because I'm going to miss a few times, but if I get enough swings at the plate, I'm going to hit. And with Joel Embiid, they certainly hit.
L'ère process des Sixers est l'une des plus mouvementées de l'histoire de la NBA. De la réussite avec Joel Embiid, mais aussi des épisodes bien moins jouissifs avec Ben Simmons et surtout Markelle Fultz. Difficile de dire si le meneur est le plus grand bust de tous les temps. Nul doute qu'il est le plus grand mystère de l'histoire de la draft NBA. Comment a-t-il pu, à ce point, perdre son tir si aiguisé? Peut-être, encore une fois, que les médias ont mis bien trop de pression sur les épaules frêles du jeune joueur. À seulement 25 ans, la carrière de Fultz n'est toutefois pas révolue. La route est longue, mais puisque le pire est certainement passé, peut-être que le meilleur est à venir.